The Bitcoin Ponzi is collapsing. I don't think Bitcoin itself is a Ponzi, but something strictly attached to Bitcoin called Strategy B. Okay, this is a huge company that owns almost 3% of the supply of Bitcoin, and it is showing the signs. We're getting a preview of the disaster awaiting this company, and sadly, the Bitcoin community, which has put all of its eggs in the basket of this particular strategy, ironically enough. Now, what is Strategy B? Strategy B is a company that buys Bitcoin as it's a Bitcoin treasury company. Now, there are many companies doing it now that are buying all kinds of crypto, not just Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. But Strategy B was the very first one to do this insanity. Now, I'm going to show you exactly why this is absolutely insane and why this is probably going to end really badly. Now, Strategy B, right? Negative 7% was a return for the last 12 months if you own this stock, right? For 12 months. And negative 37% for the last 3 months. So the escalation of downward pressure is just absolutely crazy. MicroStrategy might be one of the worst investments in the market, and this is during a bull run. Take this in. We're still in the bull run. We're not even in the bear market, and the signs are showing. And here you can actually see the ticker, right? The price, and you can see the giga negative number right here. This is a stock market. This is in the stock market. In crypto, people are used to these types of numbers, but in the stock market, this is very shocking. And here he finishes the tweet with, wait until a bear market. If a bear market comes, this thing is probably going to be really, really ugly. Now, just to show you that it's insane, I mean, look at this. This is the 1 year for BTC's price movement. Right now, BTC is slightly above $100,000, which is, already insane. For those of you who have been in the crypto market for a while, this is straight up insanity, right? Above 100K BTC. Imagine that. And as you can see, it started lower, right? At the early this year. So this is a positive, right? A positive increase in price. And yet Strategy, right? This is the stock Strategy has been in decline. This is a negative. You would assume a company dedicated to acquiring Bitcoin would go up. So why is this happening? Why is this stock going down even though the very asset it holds, the thing it represents, is going up? How is that possible? Well, that is because this thing is, in my opinion, nothing more than a modern day Ponzi scheme. Now, MicroStrategy has about $50 million in cash. The actual business is tiny. Now, this business used to be called MicroStrategy. That's why I keep calling it that. But they changed their name to Strategy Incorporated. But then the brand says Strategy B with a Bitcoin logo B. Okay, this is very specific. This is from their website. You can see Strategy B. I believe this is from their website. So they've dedicated their entire company to this strategy that I'm about to explain right here. Now, they owe $689 million in interest, okay? How do you owe this in interest and your cash is like this? $50 million of cash, but you owe almost $700 million in interest. Think about that. That's more than 10 times what you have. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And here we can see the summary by Bloomberg AI. Bloomberg is the Bloomberg terminal that many people use. So Strategy Incorporated faces rising costs to maintain its massive Bitcoin treasury, with annual obligations now topping $689 million, almost $1 billion. Keep in mind, this company doesn't make anything close to this type of money, okay? They're not getting anywhere close to this type of money. This is ridiculous. This is as if, you and I and a group of 50 people each have $1 million and then we borrow $1 billion. That doesn't make sense. It's like a small village borrowing $1 billion. How the heck are they going to pay this back? They can't. The company holds about 66 billion in Bitcoin. So technically it could pay it back by selling, but it plans to never sell it. This is the catch. They're never going to sell it or else, right? It's holding it indefinitely, the HODL strategy. At least that's the marketing that they do. With executive chairman Michael Saylor pledging continued Bitcoin accumulation, right? So they're saying we're only going to buy and never going to sell. Now, how they buy, this is the important part, right? We're going to talk about that in a second. Strategy relies heavily on selling new equity to cover expenses, and investors continue to buy MicroStrategy shares at a premium to the firm's net Bitcoin value. I mean, think about that. They're buying shares of this company. The company is using that to buy more Bitcoin and pay for its expenses. So the product of this company is literally its own shares. It's insane when you think about it. Now, I want to be clear, this strategy worked great for a very long time. I mean, look at its history. Initially, this is the dot-com boom, I believe, and then it crashed, right? And then it pretty much stagnated for a while, and then now it acquired this new strategy, right? It started buying up Bitcoin like crazy. It pumped, dumped, and then now it got this huge pump, and now it's dumping like crazy. So as you can see, the volatility, the movements now are insane compared to the past. Imagine you bought this long time ago, gave up on it, you look in your account again and you see this huge spike. Shout out to whoever held all this time, right? Now, why is this insane, right? This is the reality. This is the fantasy right here. This is the fantasy. Now we're going to talk about the reality. So the reality is this is what they do, right? So they issue shares, and what do? They buy Bitcoin. And then when they buy Bitcoin, the share price increases because the Bitcoin price increases. And thus they have more shares to issue. And this is the cycle that they continue. And then with this strategy, they hope to keep, pumping up their stock price. That's the idea. Now, for this to work, BTC has to keep going up forever. This is the important part. It can never stagnate or go down. And worse yet, they have added gasoline to this strategy, which is already a disaster. Now they've started issuing debt, and they kept issuing stranger and more exotic types of debt because after a while, you just run out of people who are willing to buy this, right? Because as they offer more and more shares, there are not enough buyers, so the stock price goes down, right? When they go to the market, they dump all these shares in the market. If there's not enough buying pressure, it's essentially selling pressure, and thus the market, the stock collapses, and then more people are like panicking, and then they sell, and it could trigger a mass collapse. So they have to kind of balance between issuing shares and issuing debt. So they're playing this gamble because the company is pretty much just buying Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoin a strategy, a Bitcoin treasury strategy company, pretty much. That's all it is right now compared to its other business. And this is very bad because the debt is up only. The debt does nothing but go up because they have promised to never sell their Bitcoin. I think this is the promise that really makes it really bad, because technically they could sell all their Bitcoin because they are in profit. Last time I checked, they could sell all their Bitcoin, not all their Bitcoin, but most of the Bitcoin to pay off the debt, and then they would still hold some Bitcoin. But that's the thing. They're never going to do that because that's not in their mindset. And this is what I believe is going to cause a huge issue because, of course, the Bitcoin price is not going to just go up forever, which is not only what this strategy requires, which is what the CEO, the chairman, Michael Saylor, what he expects to happen. He expects Bitcoin to go up forever, but Bitcoin can drop to 60, 50K in a heartbeat, right? And I'm going to show you in a bit, the things that can make it drop that drastically. Now, it can naturally do that already, but these are the things that are, adding this selling pressure, right? So OGs are selling, they're dumping their Bitcoin, okay? Look at this. The OG whale dumping. So OG Bitcoin whales are dumping their BTC. This chart gives a good visual of how many super whales, okay, these are super uber whales, are cashing out of Bitcoin. All lines here are 7+ year on-chain spends from pre-2018 era OG Bitcoin holders. So pre-18, so this is before this, okay? At most, they spent 20K, but it's likely that they spent, sub 10K, sub 5K. Some of them bought Bitcoin sub 1K. So they held all this time. Imagine, they pretty much made, at least a 10x, but many of them made 20, 30, 100x on their money. So they held a long time. And the orange stuff here on this chart are $100 million dump, okay? And the red stuff are $500 million dumps. And as you can see, initially there were a few, right? And this happened each time they thought that we were somewhere near the top, right? They wanted to cash out. Perhaps it was self-fulfilling prophecy when they dump, because they hold so much, it tanks the market, right? And so as you can see now, the dumping has really escalated, right? The good news now is that there are many people buying. ETFs, governments are holding, etc., etc. In the past, even governments were dumping. But there is a lot of good things for BTC, but this is a very bad, negative thing because OGs obviously own so much of the Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is one of the few things where regular people held so much of it, and these people have become OGs and now they're dumping on it. This is a very negative sign. I mean, look at it. It's clearly escalating, right? If it was a chart, it would be like zip, it would be like that, right? So the OGs are selling like crazy. So this, in my opinion, is the first catalyst. I think BTC might actually reach somewhere around maybe 200, perhaps even 300K, but it could be that this is it, okay? We have maybe half a year left, and then we're gonna, drop back down a little bit, not too far because we didn't really have much of a rise, but dump enough to add significant selling pressure to this because we're at 100K and look at what it's doing. What happens if Bitcoin drops down to 90K, 80K, 70K? I mean, this thing would just, go really bad. And if it dumps too much, how would they be able to issue shares? They won't be able to. How would they be able to raise money with debt? They might not be able to. And if they are not able to, how are they going to pay for this, interest, right, on their debt? Now, you might say, okay, well, they're just going to sell their Bitcoin, but I think they're going to hold, assuming, it's just a dump because, look at the Bitcoin chart, right? So it goes up and down quite a bit. I mean, look at this, right? So it's normal for Bitcoin to go up quite a bit and go down quite a bit. So they might underestimate what's going on and hold to the point that their debt is greater than their Bitcoin holdings. And they can't sell because it would move the market. Now, of course, they can do over-the-counter sell, etc. But you get the point I'm trying to make. They might get to a point where even selling is not really an option. And that would be a total disaster. And the last thing to really, make things worse is the politics of BTC. Now, some of you may not know, but right now, sadly, Bitcoin is a Republican Party strategy, right? While the Democrats pretty much hate Bitcoin, or at least they might not really have any personal feelings about it. I'm not saying them personally like it or hate it. They might not even care at all about this stuff. But the people who support the Republican Party, they are pro-crypto, whilst those who support the Democratic Party hate crypto, associate crypto with the scam, and Trump launched the meme coin and all this. So the Republican Party is really engulfed in this. And so in this coming election, most people are expecting J.D. Vance to run against the California governor. And if he wins, which I personally think the Democrats are going to make a comeback due to the policies of the Republicans, they're just shooting themselves in the foot with these tariffs are completely unpopular. The governments have not been made smaller. We're potentially going into new wars, yada, 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 yada. Many promises have not been kept. So the Republican Party the Republican people are kind of disillusioned. We voted for you guys. You guys have the House, the Senate, the whole thing. And yet we got this garbage. Prices are still going up, yada, yada, yada. And so I think there might be disillusion and just the Democrats would be like, if we don't vote for a Democrat now, we're never going to win again. So I think there's a good chance, who knows, but there's a good chance that a Democrat comes into power. And I think that they're going to be really rough on the crypto market and Bitcoin. So these are the catalysts that I think would crash the Bitcoin price and, in the next year or so, or 2 or 3 or whatever. And because of that, because there's going to be anticipation, right? So the price will move based on anticipation even before all these things come into effect. And I think because there's such a huge debt service cost and the price of Bitcoin will go down too fast and they won't be able to offer shares, they'll have to get rid of their Bitcoin against their own will, against their wishes. And now, although Michael Saylor, I do believe, pretty much has the greatest voting power in this company, so he might stop it, but he might be overruled by huge amounts of pressure, right? And so they might try to sell it, but they might try to sell it too late and just cascade the whole thing. And then because this is just one of many, and this is the leader, if this guy has some trouble, I can see crypto suffering severely, like a black swan. Everything just going down. So definitely keep that in mind. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm just looking at things and drawing a conclusion. And let me know what you think. With that being said, salute, soldier. Shout out to the Patreons.